Welcome back to CBC News BC and to the start of May. I am Jessica Chung here in the Vancouver newsroom. Okay, let's get you caught up. We're going to start in BC's northeast. A portion of the Heritage Highway has been shut down due to a cluster of wildfires. Now, the highway, also known as Highway 52 North, closed in both directions this morning. It briefly reopened to single-lane alternating traffic, but is now completely closed down. And the BC Wildfire Service says the cluster of wildfires are burning around 28 kilometers southwest of Dawson Creek, near the Alberta border. Now, they range anywhere from 1 to 50 hectares in size, the largest being the Brassy Creek wildfire. Now, more on the fallout of those impacted by the Lapu Lapu Day Festival tragedy in Vancouver. The 16-year-old surviving son of the family that was killed in the attack is speaking out, expressing his gratitude. Andy Lee posted a video on his family's GoFundMe page, thanking the community for their support. He's also pledging to donate a portion of the funds raised to other victims.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And I know that many other families are hurting too, which is why I like to donate $266,000 to the other victims from my GoFundMe campaign.
Now, Lee's dad, Richard, his stepmom, Lynn Huang, and his 5-year-old sister, Katie, were killed at the festival when a driver allegedly rammed into a crowd, killing 11 people over the weekend. Now, Lee says he will be staying with his grandparents, who he says helped raise him. And as people look for ways to come to terms with what happened over the weekend, the BC government declared a day of remembrance and mourning for the victims tomorrow. Premier David Eby said it will be a day to honor those impacted and a chance to stand with the community. And now to Metro Vancouver. They're reminding residents that lawn watering restrictions are now in effect until October 15th. Now, it says residents and businesses can water their lawns only once per week to conserve drinking water. Now, designated watering days will differ based on property address and type. And Metro Vancouver says water consumption in the region can increase by 50% in the summer, and reducing outdoor water usage will help redirect it to other areas of need. Now, in Lillooet, the emergency department at the hospital there has shut down again due to staffing issues, and it won't reopen until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Now, people needing emergency care are being asked to travel to Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops or to call 911. Now, this is the 19th closure of the ER in Lillooet since the start of the year, and the second one this week. And the Vancouver Whitecaps are headed to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final to compete for the Continental Crown. The surging team stunned Inter Miami, beating them 3-1 in the second leg of the semifinal series. Now, the Caps were trailing by 1-0, but stormed back with 3 goals, spoiling Lionel Messi's squad's hopes of making the tournament's final. And the Whitecaps will now wait to see who they face in the final on June 1st. And that's it. I am Jessica Chung, and you are watching CBC News BC. We've got lots more local continuous coverage for you, so stay here. Don't go anywhere, because BC Today is up next. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. A number of investigations will take place now into the Lapu Lapu Day festival attack. We'll hear reaction from some in the Filipino community. And the province is scrapping its zero-emission vehicle rebates. Will that push demand even lower? After 12:30, banning cell phones from schools, Quebec is going further than other provinces, including BC. Its new ban will apply from the start of the day till the end, including breaks. Do you think cell phones have a place in schools at all? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Premier David Eby says a public inquiry will take place into the vehicle attack that occurred on Saturday at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival. He also said there are plans to establish an independent commission to look at best practices for event security. Mayor Ken Sim has also directed a full review into the city's event safety measures, including barriers, traffic control, and safety protocols. Meanwhile, vigils and commemorations continue. Yesterday, student groups at UBC organized a vigil where speakers called for thorough investigations. Burnaby City Councillor Maita Santiago called for full accountability.
The Filipino community, the Laur mainland community, across Canada, around the world, people's lives have been changed forever. So it's important that when we do this investigation, that we really turn over every single stone that we need to. So everything from, the mental health system, all the way down to the actual organizing, right, of that day. Let's, look at everything. There must be something, and I know that there is, because I know that moving forward, things will be different, right? But let's make sure that a light is shown on all of that, and we need the public's help in making sure that those who are in charge of these investigations and inquiries know that we're watching.
Santiago says she is getting questions from members of the community. Cass Del Rosario is a UBC student and member of the student group Kababayan.
So both UBC Kaba and UBC Sulong would like to call for a thorough and transparent investigation. We raise the discourse of justice and accountability because a lot of the community are looking for answers. We are aware of the risk assessment of public security and that safety should be answered for, especially by police in cooperation with the event organizers. There's a lot of events and festivals that happen in Vancouver where the police will actually send trucks to bar off the locations or the length of street that will have the events going, and it seemed that this just wasn't available for Lapu Lapu Day.
Now, in the wake of the tragedy, Mayor Ken Sim is pushing for more mental health resources, including bolstering involuntary treatment. Premier David Eby, meanwhile, has announced a review of BC's Mental Health Act. Now, the accused in the case was under the care of a Vancouver Coastal Health mental health team and was on extended leave. Vancouver Coastal Health said in a statement that there was no indication this person was not following their treatment plan or presented a public safety risk. Yesterday, we asked you what needs to change about BC's mental health care system, and Peter wrote us this email from North Cowichan. We need to increase our funding for all forms of health care and the justice system. Taxes are not poison or theft. I, with quite high retirement income from over 50 years of savings, should be paying more toward health care, mental health care included, as well as courts, police, and correction centers. People at the low end should be paying less so they can afford housing help and don't get frustrated enough to turn to drugs or crime. I've been able to pay for my own mental health challenges. People should not have to have money to get treated. And here's another email. I have a bipolar condition which started after my children were born in the 70s. With every bad depression episode, I was hospitalized, I guess to keep me safe from myself. This went on for years until my very serious attempt at suicide in 1992, where I was airlifted to Calgary into ICU. Afterwards, they sent me to Cranbrook Psych Ward, where they really investigated my illness. It took 9 months of treatment before they let me out, but they kept me as an outpatient, attending group each day till I was sent home. I had appointments every week at Cranbrook for several months, and then I was sent to UBC for more group therapy. In Cranbrook, they did a cocktail of drugs that was keeping me more or less stable, and after 2 years, I went back to work. I guess the cocktail is working as I only occasionally have brief periods of highs. But I want to say that I was very lucky to have been treated in the 90s because nowadays that treatment would not be so thorough. No one in the healthcare world can invest so much time and professionals into one patient. I feel lucky and blessed now, for at my 85 years, my life is wonderful. I'm so glad that I let myself live, and I'm so sorry for the patients now. Thank you for your emails. We're at bctoday@cbc.ca, and much more coverage, of course, on that story. And tomorrow has been announced and declared as a provincial day of mourning in the wake of the Lapu Lapu Day tragedy. It is now 12:12. You're with BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Well, BC is ending its zero-emission vehicle rebate program. And the news comes after a similar federal rebate program was paused in January when it ran out of funds. Now, the province said it reviewed the program after the ending of the carbon tax left a $1.8 billion hole in the budget. And the Go Electric program provided for rebates between $500 and $2,000 for some plug-in hybrids, and then between $1,000 and $4,000 for battery electric and long-range plug-in hybrids. Okay, we want to hear from you on that now. What's your reaction to the end of the rebate program for zero-emission vehicles? Will it push demand lower? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And you can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And let us know, too, if you have taken advantage of those rebates and what difference it made for you. Joining me now is Bob Porter. He's the president of the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association. Hi, Bob. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Well, thank you. And so what's your reaction to the province halting the EV rebate program?
It's unfortunate, but totally understandable with the carbon rebate money gone. And the province is, facing a deficit. I understand that, various programs will probably be terminated or put on hold. Right now, they're saying that they're pausing the rebate program for this time. Mm-hmm. We can hope that they'll reinitiate it. It's the same thing with the federal. I know that the Liberals that got back in, that they may reintroduce the federal rebate. I mean, Quebec, they canceled theirs in February and brought it back last month. So we can only hope for the best. I mean, it will affect sales. That's for sure.
And hasn't sales already been slowing down?
Well, I mean, they say there's lies, bigger lies than statistics. So if you look at the percentage, I know they say like 22.7% of the sales were EVs in 2023, and last year it was 22.4. We're talking about 0.3%. But that's just looking at new car sales. What we have to remember is, even though the rebates are gone on from federal and provincial at this time, and of course last month they also, yesterday they ended the PST rebate on used. I think what people have to remember is there's a very large used EV market out there that people can take advantage of. So you can get into an electric vehicle at less than the retail price. And like when I first bought my electric car in 2014, there was no such thing as a used electric vehicle for sale.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas today, if you look at like Auto Trader, or if you look on maybe Marketplace on Facebook, you'll see that there's actually across the country, there's thousands of electric vehicles that have come off lease or are used, and people have replaced them with a newer model, maybe with better mileage. We have a friend who just bought a used one. He couldn't afford a new one, but he bought a 3-year-old off-lease Hyundai. And ourselves, we have an electric vehicle. We looked at a second car, and we can't afford a new electric vehicle. We have no reason to, but we could use a second car. And we're looking at the used EV market. So the used market's very, very large, and that might be affecting some of the sales too.
Right. And so how successful was this program then in getting people to adopt ZEVs, they call them, when there are more people turning toward the used market anyway?
Well, I mean, it did help people to get into the electric vehicle. Like I said, with the federal and the provincial, it was really good, and it brought the price a little bit closer to what a new non-electric, like an ICE vehicle, gas or diesel. But usually they were still a little bit higher. But the prices are coming down a bit. Lithium has come down. Battery technology has become a little bit cheaper. That's helping the market. Like I said, when I first bought ours, there was like 3 cars on the market, and now there's like over 60 vehicles. So there's a whole range from around $40,000 up. So there is still new material out there that's at a reasonable price, but the used market is very strong too.
What to you were the limitations of the rebate program?
What did I think the limitations were?
Yes.
I have no problems with because the limitation was like $4,000 for anybody under 80 making less than 80,000, and I know they took the rebate off any of the expensive EVs. I was fine with that program. I totally understand where their pricing structure came from.
Okay, so for you, in terms of that limit, because I know there were some comments around. Okay, but what about the lower price range? Will those be affected as well? Like, would those be included as well?
Well, I would think so.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that the rebate program stopped, but I totally understand the economics of it for the province.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is that if you make less anyway, the price is out of reach to begin with. So, what difference would a rebate make?
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is, if you are looking at a new vehicle anyway, I mean, this does bring it down a little bit, and then you might make the decision. I mean, it's hard for people to come up with the money. I know the initial price can be a sticker shock for some people.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the day-to-day savings you have when you buy an electric vehicle, I mean, maintenance is next to nothing. It's very low. And of course, the cost to charge an electric vehicle, as opposed to filling your tank every week with gasoline, that's where the savings comes in. It's that day-to-day savings, not so much at the initial purchase.
Okay.
So if you can accept buying something a little bit more, and that's what we did. We were looking at that, and we weren't even sure it was going to work for us. But we save so much money on our day-to-day costs of running an electric vehicle that it really did offset the initial price.
And you're hoping that these rebates come back at some point. Yeah. My guest is Bob Porter, president of the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association. We're asking you, now that the province says it's ending its ZEV, Zero-Emission Vehicle Rebate Program, in a couple of weeks. It has a couple of weeks left, or if the money runs out, whichever comes first. What do you think of that? And do you think it'll push demand lower? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 as well. Kim is calling us from Vancouver. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Hi, what are your thoughts on this?
So, I think, first of all, that canceling the carbon tax was a very, very bad idea. I think our planet will suffer because of that. And the rebates for the electric vehicles were absolutely amazing. I got into the electrical vehicle market specifically from that. My job has me driving between 60 and 80 kilometers a day. And for me to buy an electric vehicle was too expensive, but from the government rebates, I saved $9,000.
Provincial and federal together, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That made the vehicle absolutely worth it for me to buy. It was $53,000, right, ticket price. I bought a Tesla, $53,000 ticket price. When you add the taxes and all the fees, basically that $9,000 saved all of that. So it worked out to be like a $65,000 car minus $9,000. I'm back down to $53,000. And Tesla has an 8-year payment plan, so you can pay it off over time. My savings to drive it are unbelievable. My total cost last year to drive this car, total cost was $475 for the whole year.
Wow.
So that you can't even argue how this is not amazing. It's amazing. And I wish that more people who had a job that had them driving. I mean, I'm doing local stuff all the time, right? Obviously, if you have to drive a long distance,
Right.
you might question it more. But I'm driving around the city all day, and my bottom line is greatly improved because of this. I was spending $400 a month on gas.
Yeah.
A month. And this is, so
Now
I'm
you're
really
spending that for a whole year. Yeah.
Yes.
Kim, obviously you're enthusiastic about it. Well, thank you so much for the call. That's Kim in Vancouver, says those rebates were really useful for her in purchasing an electric vehicle. Anton is next now on Bowen Island. Hi, Anton.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you for calling.
We have an electric car too. We bought it about 7 years ago, 2018. And then we still had to scrap it. Fee that if you have an old combustion engine car, you could $3,000 for it.
Right.
That's what we did. And the same, basically what Kim has been saying, to drive it it's splendid. The maintenance costs are very low, and fuel costs are very low as well. To react to incentives being phased out, in combination with what the provincial government has been doing, like what Kim mentioned, the carbon tax being cancelled, but also what it says now in the new climate report, the province climate report, that we're not going to meet our goals for climate action, for reduction of emissions. And what we're seeing is basically that the province is going totally the wrong route with continuing to invest in LNG, in pipelines, and all the wrong things, and cutting off all the options to reduce emissions. At the same time, we also see the 100% of tariffs on Chinese cars, which would be a source of affordable EVs for us. And then at the same time, where's TransLink going to go? They said they're going to cut bus services because it all seems to go backward instead of going forward, and that really bothers me. I don't know, and I don't know what to tell my children. It just what's happening right now is just ridiculous.
That's the bigger picture, isn't it? Is the climate targets?
That's what it is about.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Anton, thank you so much. I'd love to.
Michelle.
Take care. Okay. And so, Bob, there's also this mandate that's coming as well, right? In 2026, 26% of sales in BC must be zero emissions vehicles. That's going to increase to 90% in 2030, 100% in 2035. I mean, how is this going to help to get to encourage people to fulfill that mandate and to make it easier to fulfill that mandate?
Well, like I said earlier, probably what we're going to have to see is more lower-priced electric vehicles coming on the market, and they are coming.
They are?
We're waiting for GM to come up with a new Chevy Bolt. I mean, I bought a Bolt in 2018, and the price ended up being $5,000 cheaper 5 years later. So hopefully more product will come out, more people will kind of join the movement. It is a major jump for many people to go from an ICE vehicle, a gas or diesel, to electric. We weren't sure how it would work out for us 11 years ago, and we've never looked back. But the mandates are going to be, I know, when you got to remember is when those mandates were set. I don't know, maybe they seemed optimistic or maybe they seemed rational at the time, but we went through a COVID. Now we're going through a global economic situation caused by the states. This could very much affect the price of electric vehicles or any car, and people might not be buying much of anything new, let alone electric vehicles.
Do you think the province should revisit those mandates then?
I think they probably will. I mean, the U.S., every country in the world is pretty well had some kind of mandate about going electric. And I think everybody's reviewing it in looking at the global situation as it is at this present time. They're at, 22.4% of the EV sales for last year. So, more than one in 5 cars is electric that's being purchased at this time. Hopefully the federal government will bring back a rebate, and that'll help. And hopefully BC can reassess the situation and to bring back a rebate to really help motivate. The irony is people are all upset about a $50,000 electric car, yet BCAA says the average price of a vehicle being sold in this country is about $67,000 to $68,000 because everybody wants a truck or they want an SUV. We're all driving these big vehicles.
Okay, let me take some more calls now. You're really making the case for electric vehicles. Jamie on the line now in Vancouver. Hi, Jamie. Did you take advantage of a rebate?
No, I bought a used EV about 4 or 5 years ago, so I wasn't eligible. But because it had 2,000 K on it, I got like $15,000 off the regular price. So you can get good deals on EVs without rebates. I did. And, it's unfortunately they're getting rid of the rebates, but the rebates aren't that effective a way of cutting down on greenhouse gases. There are more effective ways. I think the important thing is that the province continue to build up the infrastructure for charging electric vehicles, because that's really the most important thing once you get an EV is being able to charge your car when you're traveling and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult to charge your car at home if you have a parking spot or a garage or something like that. But I think in the scheme of things, as long as they keep making it easier to charge your car, prices are going to come down. And one thing I would like to suggest is getting rid of the 100% tariffs that Canada imposed as a result of pressure from the U.S. on Chinese EVs, which are like half the price of the cheapest EVs that you can buy.
That are really popular in Asia. I was just in the Philippines, and people said their Chinese EVs are really popular there. Jamie, thank you very much. Good to hear from you. And it's a great point that you raise as well when it comes to infrastructure. And so what will be the need for expanding infrastructure if you're trying to motivate people to purchase electric vehicles? Jamie, thank you for the call. And so, Bob, that question, that's two people now who have raised the question of the 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. What do you make of that? Does the federal government need to give that another look?
Well, I've already asked our local MP about that and suggested the same thing. We kind of went to go along with the U.S. because the U.S. put 100% tariff on. We did the same thing the next day. The EV groups across Canada, we don't agree with that 100% because we do want to see more EVs. And I understand it's kind of to protect the home market, to give them a chance to get up and running.
Right.
We have suggested that they slowly decrease them, like go down to 80%, 60-40, like that'll give the manufacturers, like mostly North American, European manufacturers, time to get up to speed on selling and producing electric vehicles. But that would also allow them to come in. I was suggesting, Europe has about a 38% tariff on Chinese EVs going into Europe, and I was suggesting we kind of do the same. My also suggestion about that was China has put 100% tariff on our grain, which is hurting our people in Saskatchewan and other parts of the country that ship to China. It was as a retribution against us having a 100% tariff on the Chinese cars. So maybe we should lower ours. It would still, even with a tariff that's less, would increase the price of the Chinese car a bit, but it would still be competitive. And I think we get a lot of people into the Chinese-built electric vehicles. But back to the chargers, if I just may, BC Hydro has put in 600 so far. They put in like 400 last year, and they're putting in another 200 over this year and next year.
Okay.
And they're all over the place. Like you can drive the Whitehorse tomorrow.
So you're saying that it's expanding. It is expanding.
All the time. Tesla's put in a lot, and now that Tesla has opened up to a lot of other manufacturers, I have driven coast to coast. So.
Let me just get another call here.
Sure.
I'll take another call here because Jamie has a question for you. Hi, Jamie in Vancouver. Hi, Jamie. My apologies. I think we lost Jamie, but Scott is on the line in New Westminster. My apologies. We have done Jamie. I'm moving down my list here. Scott in New Westminster, you have a question for Bob.
Oh, yes. It's just, I'm just curious what he knows about the EV1 that was released in I think it was like the earlier mid-90s or something. They did that documentary of Who Killed the Electric Car and I'm just curious about how much the technology's improved since then, because I am curious about. I think Dodge has a Challenger, a Charger right now, and I am curious about that car. But I'm concerned about long distance, and also apparently when it's very cold temperatures, they don't perform that well. And sometimes here in town, I've seen people will actually vandalize the Chargers, which is ridiculous. But anyway, those are just some. But definitely, the next car I purchase will likely be electric if things go well. So.
Okay, what do you mean by things go well? Like with your finances, or?
No, just the overall. I mean, just I think if the technology improves to the point where I feel like, to have one around the city, like to have one in the Lower Mainland, or to have one on the island, like where there's lots of population, lots of access to the technology. I think it's easier than, say, you're up, like he mentioned, Whitehorse. I don't know if I could drive it to Whitehorse from here or not and be safe. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
So if things go well in terms of building out that infrastructure. But Scott...
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. So really the improvement. Yeah, take care. The improvement. What sort of improvement has there been in the technology, Bob?
It's almost day after day. He first mentioned the EV1, which GM came out with in the early 1990s, and it wasn't a cheap car, but people loved it. A lot of movie stars bought it because they had the money to pay the lease. GM decided to cancel that program, and even the head of engineering admitted it was a big mistake, and that put GM 10 years behind, like if they had kept that program going. But the first ones came out, they had lead acid batteries like you have in your ICE car today. But I mean, the battery technology is changing so much. I mean, the hopes is we get to solid state batteries in the next couple of years. They're doing sodium. The sodium batteries are less affected by cold. But yes, we do lose some range in the cold weather, but so does a gas car. People kind of forget that gas cars lose some range, but there's always concerns. And electric cars, most of them have at least a 400-kilometer range. I mean, and a lot of the newer ones have over 500 to 600 kilometers. And BC Hydro, their plan is to have a charger of their own system every 150 kilometers on all the major routes. And that's not including the fact that, there's thousands of Tesla chargers in this province, and other On the Run has chargers. They're all around. And if people go to PlugShare online, just look at PlugShare and you see all the chargers.
Yeah. And still expanding, as you say. Bob, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
That's Bob Porter, president of the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association. And just a note here, this is a tweet from New Westminster. There is a bear on the loose. Please be advised there's a bear on the loose in Sapperton Park. So if you see the bear, please do not approach it. BC, the conservation officers say their officers are keeping tabs on its movements, and conservation officers are en route. So that is a tweet from New Westminster Police. It is 12:34 now. This is BC Today, and time for your CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The BC Wildfire Service is warning about increased risk in parts of the province as it deals with a handful of fires along Highway 52 between Tumbler Ridge and Dawson Creek. The largest is about 50 hectares, and officials believe it was human-caused. Forecasters say the interior could see record temperatures today and tomorrow. Staffing issues have shut down the emergency department at Lillooet's Hospital for the 19th time this year. It won't reopen again until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. People needing emergency care are asked to travel to Royal Inland in Kamloops or call 911. And BC has declared a provincial day of remembrance and mourning to be held tomorrow for victims of the Lapu Lapu tragedy. Premier David Eby's office says it will be an opportunity for people to come together and grieve. 11 people were killed in the attack in South Vancouver Saturday night. 16 surviving victims remain in hospital. 5 are in critical condition. And now the forecast on the north coast. Rain this afternoon with a high of 11. Highs up to 22 and mainly sunny in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, sunny with a high of 21. Highs in the low 20s with sunshine in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, sunny with a high of 25. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, increasing cloudiness this afternoon with highs from 18 to 25 inland. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
I can already hear people in my house making plans to go golfing.
Is that right? They're golf fans,
Just
are they?
hearing the weather.
Oh,
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
It's happening.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It's happening. Thank you so much, Rob.
You bet.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. This is BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. And lots more on the day's top stories coming up in the afternoon shows in your region. In Metro Vancouver, here's what's coming up on the coast.
Michelle, hi there. It's Gloria Makarenko here, and I'd love it if you can join us for On the Coast this afternoon. Our guide to personal finance, Mark Ting, is going to be back today. He's got some tangible advice for anyone who's renewing a mortgage around now. So Mark is going to break down whether it is financially better to get a fixed rate or a variable rate. And this is something he touched on last week, and he got lots of emails from our listeners. So he's going to pick it up again and respond as best as he can. Also, Richmond-based wrestler Arjun Buller has competed for Team Canada at the Olympics and at the Commonwealth Games. And there's a brand new documentary about his life story that comes out this week. So Arjun is going to join us this afternoon. I hope you'll join us too between 3 and 6 for On the Coast.
We sure will, Gloria. Thank you very much. You can hear Gloria Makarenko on the Coast on CBC Radio 1 in Metro Vancouver and anywhere on the CBC News app. $12:37 now. You're with BC Today. Well, the province of Quebec will impose a full ban on cell phones and other electronic devices in schools. And the ban will apply from the beginning of the day all the way until the end, and that includes breaks. It will also apply to both public and private schools at the elementary and secondary grades. The CBC's Matthew Lapierre explains why the province is making this move.
Should cell phones be allowed in school? Quebec is looking at banning cell phones everywhere on school property. Basically, a special committee that included lawmakers and experts looked at the issue and found that they're distracting and limiting students' ability to learn. So that special committee issued its interim report, and it made one major recommendation, and that was to ban cell phones everywhere on school property, even outside. And the education minister has said he's open to the idea. Now, that committee did say that there could be exceptions to the rule, specific cases where a student might need a cell phone because they have a medical condition, or if teachers need to accommodate the needs of students with learning difficulties. Cell phones are already banned in classrooms in the province. They have been since January 2024. And there are varying types of cell phone bans across other Canadian provinces. But would a cell phone ban work? Would it help students pay attention and focus in class? Some experts and teachers say they're on board. Everyone has a phone nowadays, they're distracting in the classroom, and teachers notice students are glued to them all the time. But others do warn that cell phone bans could cause tension. People who are really attached to their phones don't like to be separated from them. And there's another wrinkle. Quebec's expert committee recommended that this new cell phone ban come into effect as early as next school year, which is really soon. Keep in mind this hasn't happened yet. The committee is actually going to release its full report in late May, and they might have more recommendations.
That is the CBC's Matthew Lapierre. The irony of a story about banning cell phones on a YouTube short video that you would watch, where? On your cell phone. Now, BC implemented cell phone restrictions in schools last year. They have left it up to the school districts, and teachers do have their own discretion as well. But we're taking your calls asking you, should cell phones be banned outright in schools? What do you think of that? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone, and you can email bctoday@cbc.ca. And my guest joining me now, I see some calls lining up already. Brandon Laur is the CEO and instructor at the White Hatter, and he specializes in crafting digital literacy workshops for students, parents, and educators. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
No white hat today.
No white hat today, but when I work with kids, that's definitely the gimmick that they like.
Well, tell me about what you do talk to kids about and what you hear from them when it comes to the use of cell phones in schools.
Yeah, so our objective is to empower youth in order to use devices in a better way, in a safer way, more private way, so they can leverage it to their benefit, but also try to minimize possible challenges. And of course, the conversation around schools and phones is one of those conversations that I think we're all trying to navigate.
We sure are. And here in BC, I asked my kid this morning, what is it like in your school? And he said there are different policies in each classroom. It kind of depends on the teacher. So I like how you put it there. It's, how can we leverage it, but also sort of prevent what the downsides are. What impact does being able to have a phone in your classroom at school, what impact does it have on those benefits and on the consequences as well?
It is a complex issue. There's many facets to the pros and cons. To give you a sort of high overview, obviously it's going to mostly come down to teachers and how they manage their classrooms. There's a lot of provinces and agencies talking about bans, but when you actually get into the details of what the rules are and legislations, there's always exceptions to rules. And even prior to bans, like here in British Columbia, it's more like a restriction in that by default, you can't just have your phone out scrolling TikTok. Now,
you can't?
Teachers usually, in most experiences I've had with teachers, they wouldn't allow that anyway.
Yeah.
But during classroom educational purposes, like maybe there's a lesson plan, I met a teacher who had a program that used VR, not like the school's going to pay for a VR headset, but phones can do VR type material. So there's opportunities, most certainly, and we don't see a whole lot of changes because when we say bans, they're more so restrictions, having some default rules.
And what do you think is best then? Is it that sort of leaving it to the discretion of the teacher?
To a degree, because I've worked with schools across actually Canada, and I've met with schools where every student is assigned a Chromebook by the school, paid by the school. I've worked with some communities where the schools don't have the funding to provide a student a Chromebook every year, and they require parents in their school list to basically have a laptop, a Chromebook, as their school supply list. And those are two very different ways on how you manage education. And so I always get a chuckle because, we might ban a phone from a classroom, but if the classroom brings in a Chromebook or a laptop, anything your phone can do, a laptop can do.
Sure.
The same apps you can access. So there have been reports of students, okay, so they're in front of their laptop, they're doing their schoolwork, but they're actually just, not listening. So there's challenges in technology altogether. My best example would be if a school is able to provide a laptop to a student, but it's under the control and ownership of the school, which can allow them to apply their own filters and monitoring. Challenges come in when you have your BYOD, your bring your own device policy, where a student brings in their own laptop, which the school has no control over, but it's needed for educational purposes. And that obviously comes down to a funding issue, usually. I know a lot of schools now are, we're getting devices in classrooms that are owned and run by the school, which is easier to manage.
Let's take some calls now. What do you think of this idea of banning cell phones outright from schools? Quebec is going to ban cell phones from schools. That ban is going to start from the start of the day to the end of the day, and that's going to include breaks. So what do you think of that? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Do cell phones have a place in schools at all? Jan is on the line from Langford. Hi, Jan. Welcome.
It's Jan. It's okay.
Hi, Jan. Sorry.
Michelle, thank you kindly. I think your guest, I'm going to call him Mr. White Hatter. I don't remember what his name was.
Brandon.
I'm a science guy. I'm 63. I was working on computers and before I even started high school. Won the Grade A Science Award. But what I've discovered over the years is that we have what you call unbridled technology, starting with the iPhone in 2006, 2007. And so I kind of agree with your guest in that if the schools provide technology, fantastic. And I think we should restore funding to our schools right across the country so that every school can make the decision whether they want to provide technology and what technology they want to provide. But as individual kids, not a chance. I think it should be 100% ban. And I'm glad Quebec's on the move. So
okay. Yeah, and thank you so much. Janet now on the line from New Westminster. Yeah, what are your thoughts on cell phones? No cell phones at all in schools, Janet?
No cell phone at all in school. I am in total agreement.
Yeah, you sound excited.
I've had kids where they're doing a math exam. They're allowed to use a calculator. They have a calculator. They're handout calculators to kids who don't have their own calculator. And I had a kid put his cell phone on the desk. And he said, "That's my calculator." I said, "Yeah, right. That's why they call it a cell phone."
Yeah. And you didn't buy it.
I've had kids with their phone on vibrate, and I had one girl come up to me once and say, "My mom is out in the parking lot. Can I get early dismissal?" And I said, "Well, number one, you don't have a note for early dismissal. And number two, your cell phone was supposed to be off. It's on vibrate, isn't it?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Number three, that's what the office is for."
That the mom should have called the office.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as it turned out, mom had to go into the office and ask for the child to be early dismissal because, that's the way it is.
That's the way it was.
Yeah.
So you're a teacher, Janet. You're a teacher?
Well, I am retired now, thank goodness. I got tired of being the cell phone police.
Ah, the cell phone police. It became a part of your job.
Internet police, the snack police, the lunch police, you name it, police. In amongst all that, you maybe got to teach a lesson or two.
Aha. And kids were distracted, were they?
Oh, totally, just totally. And kids in a computer room where they're sending nasty messages to other kids on online. Yeah. And it just got to be.
There's that as well. Janet, thank you so much. I hear you hear about kids as well, like kind of filming each other, right? When perhaps for something embarrassing, there's that as well. Janet, thank you for the call. Corey is next in Duncan. Your thoughts on a complete ban on cell phones in schools, Corey?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure can. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. No, I'm 100% in agreement with the cell phone ban. I think it's long overdue. This should have happened many years ago. We know how social media it affects kids. We know a lot about how cell phones distract kids. There's no way that they should be allowed in schools, in the classrooms with the kids. There's work to do in school. There's studying, homework, all these things. And the cell phones just take that away, all that time and attention from kids.
Okay, Corey, thank you. Let us know what you think as well. Do cell phones have a place in schools at all? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. We have an email from Bindu who writes, the current generation of kids and some adults are prisoners of their cell phones. Mindless scrolling and the need to be connected socially all the time has led to increased mental health issues amongst the new gen kids. Schools should be the place where kids are free from their mobile phones and can develop their skills and other interests. Okay, Brandon, I'm going to pose the parent question here. As a parent, maybe this has become a bad habit for me. I know I can reach my kids anytime because if I have a question, what time is pickup going to be? Do you need to stay later? That has become very useful to me as a parent. So what about that advantage, that use for cell phones?
Yep, I think our previous caller with the previous education experience kind of alluded to that quite well. One of the challenges educators are facing is not necessarily kids phones, but the parents and phones.
Guilty as
where
charged.
parents
Okay.
where parents want to be in constant connection. And, to be fair, I mean, if you have two working parents, they're two full-time jobs.
Absolutely.
That's more common today than ever before. And family lives are getting way more busy. It's not as if there's one parent who's the primary caregiver not working anymore. So there are certain social and economic realities that families are facing. And, we're hearing bans from schools at all grades, but, a high schooler's experience is going to be different from an elementary school. And some districts I've worked in, they have tiered approaches where elementary, no phones whatsoever. Middle school, pending, but usually no phones. At the high school level, I've seen some districts who are a little more lenient because, there are some high schoolers who, when they finish school for the day, they have a job. They're supporting their family. And in today's, business environment, having your employer be able to contact you at any moment, that's a whole other discussion.
Well,
but,
yeah.
That's a reality. Or kids, teens having to care for an aging parent when parents are having kids at older ages. And now high school parents are much older than they used to be, and there might be health concerns. So there's all these considerations that when we say a ban altogether, we're not taking into consideration all those aspects. So it's easy to ban something we don't like, but what are the actual consequences, and who is it going to benefit, and who may it hurt?
So it's sort of an easy sell, but there's a much more nuanced take on the issue of cell phones. Let's take another call here. Charlene is on the line from Pitt Meadows. And you have two kids in high school, Charlene.
Yes, I do.
Okay. How do you feel about a ban on cell phones?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I think it's long overdue.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What impact do your kids have cell phones?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so does everyone that we know. I think the issue is that it's really inconsistent with teachers. So some teachers have come down really hard on it and have very clear expectations around that, and some teachers have, it's fine. It's like there's no ban at all. And it's not just, the issue that I have isn't really just in terms of the inattentiveness in class that definitely happens. Work isn't getting done. But I feel like there's also, and maybe I'm not sure if it's been talked about yet, but there's a social stunting that's definitely happening in this generation. And I feel like having these devices means that they don't have to interact. There's not as much eye contact made. The social connections are lacking. I've got kids who don't know how to order food at restaurants because they have to do it face to face. I think the impacts are broader than just academic.
It has absolutely changed social interactions. That's a really good point, Charlene. Thank you so much. Thanks for the call. Good to hear from you as someone with kids who are in high school and have cell phones. We have another parent on the line. Omar in Richmond joins us now. Hi, Omar.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just fine. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your thoughts. Tell us about your kids.
Well, you know what? I have a 14-year-old, and I was just sharing with your colleague. I did get to experience, him and his friends before they had their phones, and it's amazing how quickly they transform in a bad way for me. They were reading books. They used to, drive to hockey, and they were like a couple of his friends, always on their books reading. As soon as they got the phones, I see them playing nonstop. And I feel like the phones, they really isolate students socially instead of connecting face to face and playing and living their age. Many retreat into screens, and so just basically just hide behind those screens. And the school should be space for focused learning and real human connection, building those friendships, those memories. But most of the time, I when I see my kids and their friends, they are behind the screens, which is it's sad.
Oh, Omar, thank you so much for the call. Yeah, good
Absolutely.
to hear these real life experiences. So, Brandon, we've heard more about the social interaction aspect. What can be done about that? Kids just getting used to interacting through their screens.
Yeah, I think we can expand that to just everybody. Aren't we all spending more time on screens? And so maybe, maybe there's a wider question about how we as a society, how we as Canadians decide to opt into how we use our devices and putting more intention towards it. I met a student who in middle school was learning how to do animation work. In high school, they launched a YouTube channel and they gained millions of followers. And then when they graduated high school, they were pretty much offered a job doing that kind of work. So, but that's because that student had put clear intention. It wasn't, I think the term we call it now is doom scrolling.
Right.
Probably heard that, right?
Yeah.
You're just on TikTok and video after video. You're not really producing or creating anything of value. So I think what we can really focus on, and I think the schools have a play here as well, but putting more intention in how we choose to engage with technology in a more positive way. Now, of course, as humans, relax, unwind, do a little doom scrolling here and there to just relax.
That is
a bit.
so
That's
relaxing.
fine.
Yeah.
I guess it depends what pops up on your feed.
Yeah.
But okay, we're humans, right? We're very complex individuals, and so a little bit is fine. But it's when that scrolling now negatively impacts your schoolwork, your family relationships, your chores, your to-dos, being a healthy, normal, regular person. If you've done everything you needed in your day to be a healthy person, sure, you'd spend some time, relax, unwind, play games, doom scroll. It's when that time now impacts negatively the parts of our lives that we need to keep healthy.
I love that, being intentional with how you use it, just giving that extra second thought, am I going to be passive here? Or is there something that I can actually produce? That's really useful. Thank you so much. I can see why the kids love listening to you.
Well, we try our best. We don't come at it as saying tech is bad altogether.
Yeah.
And when we take that approach, students who are reasonable and logical know that tech itself isn't inherently bad. And when they hear someone say it's bad, they tend to turn you out because there are examples of when it's not bad. So
Absolutely.
Being honest and realistic is super important.
Good to talk to you, Brandon. Thanks so much for the time.
My pleasure.
Brandon Laur is a CEO and instructor at the White Hatter. Thanks for all your thoughts too. BC Today at cbc.ca.